Okay. Is it time? Yep. All right, we're going to call the finance meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I need a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Duge, supported by Drillette. Comments, questions? Please vote on your iPad. All right, who hasn't voted? Okay, thank you. Motion to approve the minutes dated April 27, 2017. Moved by Romano, supported by Lucido. Comments, questions? Please vote on your iPad. Okay, the motion passed 12-0. Public participation. Does anyone wish to be heard? Anyone wish to be heard? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. Oh.
Connection to the sinkhole.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I figured the public comments section would be the best time to just give a real brief update on the short-term loan that the county made to the Public Works or the district in regards to the MID. We were recently contacted by Commissioner Miller, and a request was made to draw on the remaining funds on that loan. So I just want to let you guys know that this morning I wired over $12.23 million, which is the remainder of that loan to them so they can get through the next week until the bond sales go forward on the 25th. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, okay? All right.
Thank you. Okay, the department recommendations. First of all, a resolution authorizing the City of St. Clair Shores to collect the 2017 Winter Tax Levy on the 2017 Summer Tax Bill. Moved by Carabelli, supported by Duge. Are there any questions? Oh, I have to open it up in case there are. Okay, so I don't see any speakers. Please vote on your iPad. Okay, the motion passes 13-0. Item 6B, amend 2017 Macomb County Board of Commissioners meeting schedule, and I'm going to turn it over to to Chair Smith to speak about this.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. We looked at moving some of these meetings in August because of the date that the Finance Department was able to get us the budget. We were shooting for, well, much earlier than this, but we compromised on the week of the 14th that they would get us their budget. That being said, we would have lost an opportunity for having a few meetings regarding this budget early in the month. We looked at the dates later in the month. None of them were on any of the dates that anybody put in for requests for vacation time originally, so they were open, so we kind of bumped them from the beginning to the end so we would then be able to start budget discussions.
Yes. Okay, moved by Carabelli, supported by Romano. Are there questions? Seeing no questions, please vote on your iPad.
Unless
Yeah.
Elizabeth gets to it.
Okay, the item passes 13-0. Health and Human Services Committee recommendations, do we want to take these in their entirety? Okay, moved by Romano, supported by Duje. Any questions? Please vote on your iPad.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to thank Commissioner Lucido for the fine job she did last week in my absence.
Oh,
She ran the HHS meeting, and and I've heard some very good things, and congratulations, and we'll see if maybe you can do more. Thank you, Madam Chair.
okay, so that motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Infrastructure Economic Development Committee recommendations is the motion, thank you, by Commissioner Brown, supported by Commissioner Leonetti. Any questions? Please vote on your iPad. Okay. Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Okay, correspondence, the quarterly report, and I thought the chief deputy treasurer was going to stick around, but boom, he's gone. So that's a receive and file. Is there a motion to receive and file? Moved by Carabelli, supported by Drillette. Any questions? Please vote on your iPad. The motion passes unanimously. New business, is there any new business?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, I'll just start with you because nobody else has raised their hand.
Okay.
I did.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right, we'll go.
Go you first.
So,
Okay.
two things. We've been, I've had some discussion with some people, including the finance chair, about meetings like this. We're going to start looking into maybe changing our bylaws and doing some things where we can actually forward right to full board items that don't need further discussion. That being the case, until that happens, if we have other meetings like this, we'll try to combine it to full board like tomorrow, so that we'll cancel today's and move this on to it. I didn't catch this until late, but I was talking with Commissioner Romano and Chair
We've been
Kleinfeld
scheming
about it.
behind the scenes over this
That's
issue.
fine. Yeah, oh, and it's legitimate and it needs addressing, so we will be, we'll be looking at it and bringing some suggestions back to everybody. That's number one. Number two, I think we still have a few commissioners that have yet to connect with Commissioner Lucido about the monetary donation for all of the Sergeant-at-Arms issues. So if you haven't yet, will you please do that so she doesn't have to track you down? I'll keep tracking you down. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Brown.
Have we received an invoice from you yet?
Receive and file.
Sure. Well, you know, since we're done early, I got something I'm going to talk about. It's probably going to take us a long time, so I'm glad we got the time to sit here and discuss it. No, not really. But anyway, I received a complaint from one of my constituents about the clerk's office. This veteran went down to the office, took him an hour and a half to get something that previously should have took him about 10 minutes. And the reason he couldn't get it, so he was told, and I don't know if it's a fact, that the people couldn't find the keys. They couldn't get access to the keys of the records that he needed. And he was mad. And he was mad at me, not the clerk. He was mad at me because we set their budget. And how the hell come I'm not doing enough to run that office? And he was pissed at me. And I'm just saying, I don't know how many more cases you've heard like that, but it can't continue.
Point of information, I received a call as well, and it's not that the employees can't find the keys, it's that the clerk has confiscated the keys, and that she is the only one who is allowed to use those keys to access certain records. And the information that was passed on to me is if the clerk's not there with the keys, then people aren't getting their documents.
Well, listen, I know it's a management issue. That's clearly what it was, because the employees are the ones that kind of whispered in the guy's ear, I think. But either way, it's unacceptable. We cannot have this, and it can't continue, and I hope it doesn't. So next time we have a chance to talk to her about it, we will, right here in the public. Thank you.
And I think if I were commissioners that are receiving phone calls, I would document the date and time of those phone calls at this point. Commissioner Toko?
Thank you. Along those same lines, have we gotten any information as to whether or not, I know that the clerk is a new public official, as to whether or not she's following the budget that's been set by this office? I know that there are some vacancies. There's no deputy there, so I think that we need to request a report from her to determine whether or not she's following the budget that's been set by this body.
Okay, do you want to make that like well, a lot of people have their hands up. Yeah, I think there's two on that subject, but, okay. Briefly, because Commissioner Lucido was already in line, so both,
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to ask, because if the absence of a deputy in some manner is part of the problem that you're, I mean, would she allow the deputy to have keys? Is there a timeline for her to appoint the deputy? Has anybody heard anything about her appointment of a deputy?
Yes. Talk to you after the meeting.
On that note, I try to have a pre-meeting with the clerk here
Microphone?
in the conference room or in the library. I asked her to bring 3 not mingled issues, and she gave me a page of 8 all mingled, and one of them was her move issues. And at that time, and I've told her before, she is lacking one very important position that hasn't been filled, and that's for her budget. And it's never been filled since the board hires the individual. So with that said, that's really going to cause a problem coming, especially to budget time, and to let her know how to handle the funds that she has. I stressed how important it is to her, how she had to go through the HR process, because I don't know other than she has to go through that process. And that hasn't been followed through yet. So that is a serious concern, because the budget was brought up and how she's doing it, and she doesn't have that particular position filled. And I think that's utmost important right now.
And with respect to that, I have asked the finance director just to give us a heads up if when the budgets are in, if we're missing any. We have in the past, so. Commissioner Lucido.
I also wanted to bring up a point of a constituent that had brought up a concern, I guess, I don't know if it's across the county, but in Mount Clemens, of the chore services being limited, that they're not as available as they have been in the past. People are being rejected, and that's something we really need to look at when budget comes around. That and the Meals on Wheels, I mean, those are essential. And I apologize for deleting all your meetings.
I am also receiving correspondence with respect to that from somebody that's received it for years.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
In regard, just for clarification on this, Commissioner Smith is well aware of this. A lot of this chore and so on and so forth comes through AAA, and AAA has gotten its budgets whacked also, that they have to give a certain amount of money for all these programs. And unfortunately, chore has been one of the first major programs to have cuts in the AAA budget, and that transfers down into the county budgets and so on and so forth. So it's not like we're not trying, but the fact is that there's just less money going around in order to cover things like chore services and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of that.
Yeah, originally when I talked to, it's the title, new Health and Human Services Director, took Steve's place. What's the title? I get my titles mixed up. She thought that it was decided at the city level, but I don't believe it is decided at the city level, and it's not decided at our level either. It's decided through area agency on aging.
It's on AAA and so on and so forth, but the fact still remains is that between the federal cuts and the state cuts, there's not enough money to go around. And SHORE is one of those programs that, although I agree is very, very important, it's one of them, the programs that's going to be cut. One of the first ones on the chopping block. Let's cut somebody getting their gutter fixed versus being able to feed them. That's just how it's going to be. If there's any changes at AAA or so on and so forth, I will definitely let this board know. Thank
Do you
Madam
know
Chair.
if that is from the federal level or from the state level? Because I just needed to get some very basic information on that. Okay. Second, Commissioner Brown, second round? You withdrew? Commissioner Toko, you are again?
Yes, thank you. The more I'm thinking about it, Madam Chair, and I think that this body is on notice that there are problems in that office, and I don't think we can sit here and wait until something is reported in the Macomb Daily. We have a fiduciary obligation to our constituency. I would request that the clerk have to come before the board at the 6-month mark, which will be next month in June, and give us the status of where she is at her budget. And I'd ask her to come before,
That would be a finance.
at the Finance Committee.
Okay.
Well, we've given her a budget, but I don't want to find out at the end of the year that we're not over budget because positions haven't been filled, but we're over budget in other line items or areas. We're on ample notice that there's a problem. And I think that as the keeper of the funds, we need to get ahead of the problem.
Okay, we'll place it on next month's finance agenda. If everybody's okay with that? Okay. Okay. Is everybody except for Commissioner Douget okay with it? Well, then so be it. No, go ahead.
Thank you, actually.
Go ahead.
I think we've got to be, I agree with Commissioner Toko, and I have not been shy about how I feel about the clerk's office at this point of time. But I think we have to tread very, very carefully as to not single out the clerk and the clerk's office, because I don't know if we've ever brought anybody else up and said, okay, how are you actually doing what you say you should be doing? I frankly don't think she can't spell budget, let alone be able to run one. So I don't think that's that's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it.
Okay, and
but we got to be careful not to overstep our bounds because, like it or not, she runs her department the way she sees fit. Thank you.
Okay, and before I call on Chair Flynn, Chair Smith. Old habits die hard. This is, we did have we had an issue with regard to the county executive not spending money that the commission had specifically put in before. And I know we talked about it. I don't know if we actually made it an agenda item. I don't remember. But I certainly know we talked about it at an open meeting. Chair Smith.
Thank you, Commissioner Mosheri. Oh, I'm sorry. Although I agree that we should ask her to come in and talk about what she's doing, we are just going to be able really to do that as ask her, because we're almost saying, hey, you're not spending enough of your money, and we really couldn't do that to the prosecutor's office or anybody. Hey, you don't have enough prosecutors on your staff, and we gave you money for it. So although we understand the reasoning behind it, I agree, we don't run her department, and until someone's saying she's doing something going over her budget, we're looking at maybe going under her budget. So that's a little different way to look at it. I agree, we ask her to come and maybe discuss with us. She doesn't probably know that she doesn't have to do what we're asking, so if we ask nice. what her plans are for hiring. Has she left these positions open? Does she realize that budget is, coming up, and if you don't have Crystal's position filled yet, what are we doing? And also kind of run this by Steve Schmiegel maybe a little, and just see what he knows already. So he may be able to give us a little help. But I agree that we should try to get her in here, but we have to
All right, we'll,
tread a little lightly, I
I
think,
think
on the
we'll have
demands.
discussions between now and next
Sure,
month
yeah,
and
let's-
figure out a way to go forward. One moment, well, Commissioner Gillette's already
And
spoken.
so on and so
cool.
forth. I had to finish my.
I'm sorry. So before I call on you, I'm going to call on Commissioner Sauger because he hasn't spoken yet.
I just hope we talk to her and not have her and Joe Hunt and her attorney come up here. We want to know for her what's going on. Amen.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Gillette.
Well, I would welcome her bringing a translator if that's something she can do. But I guess his question is, what would we do if she comes up here and says, I'm underspending my budget, or I'm overspending my budget, or I don't know what I'm doing, or I've decided I need to open this vault with these keys, and if someone has to wait 3 hours, they have to wait 3 hours. What would we do?
Well, the other option is that we indicate that we actually write a letter, and maybe that was something we'd put on the agenda for approval, that we indicate to her that we are hearing from residents that aren't being serviced. And if these positions aren't being filled, that it might be creating a problem. Could she explain to us why she's not filling the positions? Maybe something like that. I think between now and next month, Commissioner Smith and I will discuss how to do that. But that might satisfy everybody. Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All great points. Just a couple things to recap. Again, day-to-day operations, hiring, firing is not in the lieu of this board, and we have no say how that goes. But I think it's very important that, we ought all like to have a say in that, but unfortunately, we don't have that authority. With that said, the position of calling her up here, of notifying her of the complaints that commissioners have received is a valid point of bringing up and letting her know. The importance of the budget season coming upon us, it's not something that can be said, I'll get it to you, when I can. That has to be stressed to her. Our timeline, so publicly we're on notice of telling the information needs to be brought up. And by the way, have you filled that position yet? And if you have not filled that position of the budget coordinator, we strongly suggest prior to budgeting, you get that position filled. So I think that's where our boundaries are, and I think that's what we can do. Again, filling, as far as deputies, all that's really nothing to do with this board, unfortunately. But bringing up residents' concerns and about the concerns of the budget being presented to us in a timely manner and professional, I think we can stress. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Leonetti. I was cruising. I want you all to know I cruised through this meeting very quickly.
This will be quick, I promise you. This is really just a
Commissioner
question. Yeah, no, thank you, Madam Chair. This is kind of going along with Commissioner Carabelli said. Those workshops that you had with her, productive? I mean, is this something we could do with her in a workshop instead of a public? I'm just going along with, the idea that, yeah, and certainly I yield my time.
A workshop is still a public meeting. I mean, we can have a different
Okay,
format.
it's not called a workshop for the last time. It's called a work session.
Okay.
It's called a work session, and that's what it is.
See, that's what she called it, a workshop.
I know she did. And the reality is, we tried to do it, and it didn't go well the first time, getting in the right direction, and I think that's something I'd be willing to do again. But again, it's up to the chair of the board if he wants to put a special task force together, or if he wants it full board, or at the pleasure of what he wants. I have no problem making myself available, but again,
I guess my question is, the work session, would that be more productive, or is it more productive to have her here in front of with the full board kind of saying, hey, look, do this? I just want the good result here. I want her to do what's right, not necessarily, a public spectacle. Thank you, Madam Chair.
We are allowed to have ourselves work sessions that are not formal committee meetings. We're allowed to have work sessions where we've done it before, where we're sitting in a back room around a table. It's still got to be open to the public. As long as we are open to the public and it's been posted, we're covering our ground, but we're allowed to have an informal session. So let us figure out what we're going to do, and Chair Smith will float some things out to you guys, or tell you what we're thinking, and then you guys can get back with us and say, no, I don't like that. So, or I like that. So is that okay with everybody? Okay, does anybody else have any more new business? Okay, moving on, public participation. Does anyone wish to be heard? Anyone wish to be heard? Seeing none, public participation is closed. Motion to adjourn by Duje, supported by Sagar.
No, I want my name again.
Okay. Please vote on your iPad.
She declined her original request to do like the office overview.
Yeah.
So we could ask her to come in and do something like that again, and then ask her.
The meeting is adjourned.